So modality is our next power trait. And this is something that we hear about a lot, once again, in educational spaces. It's how our brain takes in information, how we process things. And typically it's only relegated to, I'm an auditory learner, or I'm a visual learner, or I'm a kinesthetic learner. Once again, but it does not take into account the nuances of how some of these things may be mixed. It's not just auditory. We're going to go here. So you may have a kid who's auditory, but they learn by listening. So they need to hear the voice of others. They need audiobooks, lectures, videos. They need to close their eyes and listen. Now, there's other kids who are like, well, you said you're auditory, so why aren't you listening to what I'm saying? Well, it's like, no, I'm a verbal auditory person. So I need to hear the sound of my own voice. So sometimes when you're explaining something to a child and they're just like not getting it, and you're about to pull out your hair, you can say, you know what? I need you to read out the instructions out loud to yourself, because when you hear your own voice, for that child, it may resonate at a different level. You know what I mean? So these are the kind of the nuances that we want to really pay attention to. Hold on, I want to share. So my organized disposition self, you guys, I have like just 1,000 papers right here. So we don't want to just make the assumption that because someone is auditory, once again, that all they need to do is kind of hear. So we give them an audiobook and then just expect it to click. Some people, like, they may need to hear and they may need to see it, so that's why we kind of go through the process of assessing so we can see what is their dominant learning style. So the picture modality. I don't know about you guys, but have you ever seen the flashcards that have words on it? That's not a picture. That's a word. Words are not pictures. So we want to make sure that if we have a kid who's in our picture modality, like having illustrations and images and charts or whatever. And now, like I said, with the onset of just all the technology that we have and devices that we have, like, we can make all kind of learning come alive. So we just want to know, like, if they have a picture modality, typically you will know, because this is the child that may be in class and they may start giggling because you said something. This child starts picturing and they can't get out of their head. They're not trying to be rude, but you said something. The image is stuck in their mind and they don't know what to do with. So that's just a little bit about the picture modality. And now we talk about print. So this is what schools are very heavy in with the textbooks, and not necessarily trade books anymore, but newspapers, internet research, flashcards, and things of that nature. So once again, there is only a small percentage of people who are pretty much like this print modality. I'm a print modality person. Like, people got all their smartphone devices and, put all the little data and stuff in there. Like, I do a little bit of that, but I need paper. I need to touch and see, and I process that way, so just know that when they're saying, like, I'm not getting it, they're telling the truth. So what other way can we find to display this information? And this is what I love the most. Anytime we hear kinesthetic, they're just like, move. The child needs to move, but it's like there's nuances within this one as well. So for instance, you may have a kid who's like learning how to, say, play basketball, and the coach has got the board up and he's drawing X's and O's on the board. There's a kid who can learn from that just because of their whole picture modality. They can see on the whiteboard. But then there's another child who's like, you know what, until you get me on the court and put me in position and move my body the way it needs to move, then I'm not going to understand, because they are what's called a whole body learner or kinesthetic learner. Then you have others who are taking things apart. They need to make something. They need little gadgets and things or whatever. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure maybe some of that is changing in charter schools and other settings, but I don't know that we're just getting a chance to take things apart and put things back together and see how things work, because that's how their mind works. So can you just imagine if this is your innate way of learning and you're very rarely given opportunity to process in this way? Like, to me, that would be suffocating. And then you have people who need to sketch, draw it, doodle it. We were drawing before we ever learned how to write. So drawing was humankind's first means of communication. So when people can draw things out and make connections and like mind maps, and they put the bubbles together and they can see how ideas connect and things like that, don't diminish the doodler. There's all kind of research around how doodling stimulates the brains and allows you to make connections you were otherwise not going to be able to make. So I just want us to begin to see that some of these things are not the enemy, and if we can understand it in context, that we can actually begin to support the seed of who our kids are. And then writing, taking notes, making outlines, that's typically going to be kind of your organized person. So when we say kinesthetic, we're not just going to lump in and just say, oh, it's just about moving your body. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. So that's what we have for modality. Once again, school pretty much enjoys the print, the listening, and the writing, when our actual student population is more hands-on, whole body, and pictures.